I hope I don't cough at all. I've not been great health-wise for
Oh,
a
that's
little
okay. We're we're super casual here. It's just nice to finally meet you, David Icke. Good to have you in Grimerica. I'd love to start off, like, kick this off. Like, do you feel vindicated? Are you finally feeling vindicated after? I mean, we're going through such a crazy time. In 3 hours from now, we're recording on February 11th, and I mean, this is just a little side thing, but Rep. Anna Paulina Luna is apparently doing some announcement that's bigger than ET in disclosure. And I was just thinking about it as I'm sort of mulling about talking to you. How crazy symbolically Luna, this representative from the States who's interested now in ancient history and unexplained phenomena, is named Luna. I mean, it's almost too crazy to believe. But here we are talking about all these crazy things, and you've been in this thing for like 36 years. So are you feeling vindicated?
Well, I'm feeling vindicated in the sense that so many of the on first hearing long ago, back in the 90s, far out things are now being encompassed as at least a possibility. But it's not just the what that is important, it's the why. It's the why that gives you context, that tells you what's happening beyond the what. So we have a situation at the moment with Elon Musk and Donald Trump, where they're targeting all these ministries and what have you, and what I call the hijacked central core of the alternative media, alternative in quotes, that's kind of took it over since COVID, is cheering. Okay, and that what they're cheering the what, because it seems to fit with their agenda, and there's nothing more mind controlling in totality than telling people what they want to hear. But my question is, why is it happening? And I'm sure we'll get into that. And it's the same with all these things about extraterrestrials and non-human entities, etc. It's not the what, it's the why. Why now? Why? I mean, I've been doing this, as you say there, for a long time. And I remember picking these things up right back in the 1990s. And it was completely dismissed by the authorities, completely dismissed by the by mainstream society. And you were being told that certain incidents were weather balloons, and you're talking about little green men. That was a classic you used to get then. Well, I'm sure there are little green men out there. I mean, we're talking about infinite reality and infinite possibility, but I wasn't talking about them, funny enough. And so it's interesting for me to observe what's going on with the question why, and why now. And we shouldn't forget that if there was perceived to be a threat to the planet from outside, then centralization of global power would be something that would very quickly follow. So it's great that this stuff is circulating, as long as we ask, why is it circulating now? And also, when people talk about extraterrestrials in a physical form, visiting the planet and all that stuff, I get more interested when I hear about interdimensional entities that operate outside, not of just of the planet Earth, but outside of this very dimension we call human world, which is very, very narrow, small band of frequency. And the manipulation of human society via what I call this global cult, this global network of secret societies and satanic groups and pedophile groups, etc. that global cult is simply there to manipulate society according to the agenda, the blueprint dictated by a non-human force. And I've been saying that since the mid-1990s. And that's the penny that has to drop before we start to grasp the enormity of what's actually happening. And also, by grasping the scale of it and the methodology of it and the reason for it, you also start to grasp the answers to it.
Well, that's the hard part, because it's in some ways it's easy to see how organically this stuff for 30 years, since the 90s. I mean, I was, in these UFO groups in the 90s too, and I just knew that there was so many people that had these experiences that eventually it has to seep its way into the mainstream. Like, there's no stop. You can't sort of put the lid on that. So it's hard for me to tease apart some of the organic evolution of this phenomena and even the deep state stuff with an intentional controlled opposition. I mean, it's hard for me to fathom how they could control something like that. Even that's what makes me kind of agree that it's a non-human force. But even like when you get into Trump and Elon, like the dismantle, like that's like the USAID stuff seems to be a direct attack against the deep state. Like whether it's controlled op, or it's hard to imagine it being a controlled op. I mean, I don't know what the why is, but I can see why people would think that that's a pretty scary move for a controlled opposition, or or for some sort of. So I guess that's where I kind of have a hard time with the why, is because some of it feels organic. It doesn't feel like it can be orchestrated that way.
Right. Well, let me go into the why of current events. And this is not a why I've come up with in the last few days. It's a why I've been talking about for a long time. And I have this phrase, know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you don't know what the outcomes plan to be, then events in the world appear random. They appear unexplainable, bewildering. But if you know what the outcomes plan to be, then they become very clear stepping stones, what I call the totalitarian tiptoe to that outcome. So it's so important that people hold the global level of this control system.
Yeah.
Because what I've seen since COVID and all these people started coming out of the mainstream to take the alternative media over, is it's regressed. And it's regressed from a understanding that we live in one-party states, where if you go back into the shadows with either of the major parties, or even three in some countries or more, you are hitting the same force manipulating from the shadows. And they use something that I refer to as designer manipulation. If you want to push to a certain collective outcome, then it's no good manipulating different belief systems the same way, because you're going to get some, but you ain't going to get the rest. So what you do is you design your manipulation to the belief system you're targeting. So what's the outcome? I mean, there's many outcomes, but this is the bottom line of bottom line outcomes. They want artificial intelligence to run the entire human system, which can be centrally controlled, by the way. And they want a fusion of the human brain, a human body, and artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. And one of the reasons that I've been tracking Elon Musk long before he was allowed to buy Twitter is because of the boxes he was ticking in this regard. And he positioned himself early on as the AI skeptic because this cult does not do things by making them up every 5 minutes. It plays the long game. So he positioned himself as a skeptic. And what then happened ever since is he's promoted and played out more and more artificial intelligence. And you've got a belief system on what we call the left. It's not the left that I grew up with. I'm absolutely nothing like it. The woke left, you might call it. And that's pretty much laid down to this AI agenda. It's not pushed back on it. And it's fallen for the tech and the scrolling and all these things. And fallen for the idea, as Ray Kurzweil at Google has said, that by 2030, we will be connected to AI. The brain will be connected to AI. And from that moment on, these are his words, AI will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is basically negligible. He means deleted. So AI becomes the human mind. It becomes human emotional reaction. And that's completing the cycle of control to a level that's never been seen in known human history, obviously. So he's positioned himself as the skeptic. And what that means is, because you've got to keep your focus on the outcome. The outcome is this AI agenda. So you've got the left, they're pretty much laid down, but you've got the right, or not just the right, but people who are skeptical of that. And vast numbers of them have become what's known as MAGA and Trump supporters. They're the ones that, and you include much of the alternative media in that, they've become very skeptical about this whole AI stuff, and have been not just here and there in the past, but quite often pointing to Elon Musk as an orchestrator of it. But what Musk has done with the global cult in general is target that pushback mentality. So how do you get them on board? Well, first of all, the reason that Musk positioned himself as an AI skeptic, it came later when he said that AI is inevitable. There's nothing that can stop it, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be that, and much more intelligent than humans. And if we don't fuse with AI, then we're going to die out. Now, it's a real mind control technique when you move people from pushing back on something, wishing to stop it, and them accepting it's inevitable, because then their focus of attention is how to mitigate the impact. And so if you look at the Kurzweil, Schwab, Gates version of the AI agenda, it is to fuse humans with AI and have AI running the system. If you look at the Elon Musk version, it is exactly the same, but only because it's inevitable. And I'm on your side. So if you let me get involved, I'll look after you.
Maintain your freedom and free speech and all this stuff.
Now, that's a very important point you bring up, because when Elon Musk was allowed to buy Twitter, and he was, because, you know, people need to stop thinking in black and white and start looking at things from a different angle, and ask what for me are very obvious questions. We all know, I mean, I experienced it, that Twitter, before Musk got involved, was censoring all these people. Now, he's still censoring, he's just doing it in a different way. But he was censoring all these people, right? Okay. So the deep state controlled Twitter and what went on it and what didn't. And when he bought it, he rolled out these Twitter files, as they were called. Not as many as he could, mind, but enough to confirm that the quote deep state, as it's called, was dictating to Twitter. So my question is, why, having got exactly what it wanted in terms of control, did it allow a alleged, and it is alleged, free speech absolutist to take it over? So once it happened, I knew it was a scam because I've been tracking the guy for years. And it became very clear what that was. It was that the alternative media mainstream suddenly started giving him a free pass on all the contributions he was making through SpaceX and Neuralink, etc., to this AI agenda, plus many other things on top of that. And the longer it went on, the more of a God king he became to this central core of the alternative media. And I found it very interesting and not insignificant that so many of the people that came out of the mainstream after COVID into the alternative media, having bought COVID, most of them, suddenly were those that were promoting and eulogizing Musk. So here's why that happened. What you're doing is you are throwing at your target, and your target in this period between now and 2030 particularly is that quite enormous number of people that are pushing back or were pushing back on the AI control agenda. So what you do is you absolutely bombard them with things they want to hear. You tell them what they want to hear. And I know from my experience over the years that when you tell people what they want to hear, the door is swinging open because they want it to be true. When you're telling people, and this has been my experience over the years, of course, what they don't want to hear, then the door is solid shut with a padlock on it because they don't want it to be true. The question is, if we're mature, not do I want it to be true or don't I want it to be true? Is it bloody true? That's the question. So you have this targeting of this pushback mentality with what it wants to hear, and you keep constantly telling them that. Now, if you are going to have a source of propaganda that supports your agenda and what you're saying, then it's no good that coming out of the mainstream media, because this group, this mentality, this pushback mentality as was, is totally and utterly contemptuous, rightly, of the mainstream media. No way is it going to believe anything it says. So what you do immediately after COVID is you take over the alternative media, you focus attention on people that are speaking your language, in other words, regressing into the left-right puppet show, and you promote the hell out of them algorithmically and financially. And people who are genuine in their wish to uncover what's actually happening and why, well, you give them as little coverage as you can get away with while still calling it freedom of speech. This is the World Economic Forum stalwart, chosen by Musk to be his CEO at Twitter X, Linda Yaccarino, who famously talked about we believe in freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And if something is lawful but awful, and we'll decide that, then you'll struggle to find it on Twitter X. And so this takeover of the mainstream of the alternative media is absolutely in line, because what has it become? It's become a propaganda arm of Musk, as Twitter, and Trump. And all these people are doing is telling you what you want to hear. And then when they get into power, like all politicians, they do what they plan to do all along. I mean, where the heck in the election campaign was demands that Canada becomes the 51st state? Where were the demands that Greenland is absorbed by the United States? Where is the demand that Gaza is taken over by the United States? So what we're seeing with this, again, it's classic, and I said it was coming, this targeting of the institutions of government in America, and the firing of all these people, and it's only just begun, is preparing the ground for AI to take it all over. Now, this is the irony, and this is why we need all the time to hold this this focus on the fact that it's a global agenda. Not about America. America is important because of the nature of it is within the whole, and the significance it is within the whole. But it's not about America. It's about the entire human society. So you have this society, institutions, governmental system that has been acknowledged by those that are currently eulogizing Musk and Trump, that has been created by this, what I call the global cult, and they call the deep state. It's been created by World Economic Forums, by your Bilderberg groups, your Council on Foreign Relations, your Club of Rome's, and so on. And so that was a phase. It was a phase of control along the lines of the totalitarian tiptoe, going from A to B to C, but you know you're going to Z eventually. And that Z is total AI control of the entire global society. So there comes a point where the system that has served you up to this stage is no longer applicable, because you need to replace that with your end game, if you like, AI control system. So what you need to do is crash and burn the system that you have created in terms of this global cult. And what you do to do that is you get people to appear to be doing it for one reason when they're doing it for a completely different reason. And they're getting the people that are being lassoed into this AI control system to cheer the demise of their freedom, masquerading as freedom, excuse me, freedom being saved.
So is that like, so can we look at, because there seems to be a clear split, you know, it might go back to Obama, but there's definitely no denying that by 2015, 2016, the split has sort of happened where they're pushing people off to the sides again. And Trump gets in and he sort of accelerates that, but he doesn't really do anything. He just kind of has a tepid first presidency. And then COVID pushes that split even further so that they can clearly define the left and the right again, because it would seem that like around the turn of the millennia, we were kind of closer than ever to transcending left and right as a general population. And, you know, we were kind of looking at class as being the main problem. And man, they managed to, over the last 20 years, they managed to completely quash that and get the left and the right rhetoric back up to a level I haven't seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, well, why is that? Well, this is why. When there's a few of you and you want to control a vast number, because, you know, this global cult, in terms of numbers relating to people who are doing what they're doing in full knowledge of what they're doing, is absolutely tiny globally compared with the apparently 8 billion people that they're targeting. So what you have to do to turn attention away from you is to focus attention on another faction within the target population. So you engage in the classic technique of all tyrants and tyrannies, which is divide and rule. So now they have created, and you know, Trump has been a vehicle for this, a focus of attention for this, to create this this division, and you know, the Biden administration didn't help at all by some of the things that it did in creating this division and fueling the fury and anger of the pushbacker right, if you like. And so we're now fighting among ourselves, while one part is cheering their own disappearance of freedom, and the other side, the woke left, is opposing the right while not realizing what it's all about, just as the right in general doesn't know what it's all about. But the inner players will know. They'll know exactly what they're doing. And so we're looking at the crashing and burning of the old system created by the global cult, so that the next phase of even more extreme control through AI can be introduced. And I was seeing a clip today by J.D. Vance at a Paris summit on AI, in which he's saying, you know, there shouldn't be a quote excessive regulation of AI because it will stop innovation. No, it's not about innovation, Mr. Vance, is it? It's about playing out this whole AI agenda of human control, because J.D. Vance is the political puppet and massively funded his political career of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is a co-founder of Palantir, and he's also on the steering committee of the globalist Bilderberg Group. Alex Karp, who is another co-founder of Palantir, is on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group. And Palantir, which was created with CIA funding seed money through a CIA operation called Incutel, it provides surveillance and data control technology for the military, for the intelligence community, and not just in America either. Well, here, I mean, they're even using the Palantir system in this country, in Britain, in their National Health Service. For
did you see that quote from them recently?
Say again?
Did you see that quote from them recently?
What was that?
That little video of the Palantir guys recently?
What, the Alex Karp guy, when he talked about they kill people?
Yeah.
I mean, it's becoming more and more blatant because they're becoming more and more full of themselves because of the control that they're gathering. And of course, Joe Lonsdale, who's another bloke involved in all of this stuff that we're talking about, he has come out publicly and said how wonderful it is to see what Musk is doing because it's great for Palantir. And, you know, it's in your face if you're prepared to look. But this is the thing, and I would say this to people. If you are trying to understand what's happening, then if you've got an unquestioning belief system, be it political or religious, you're dead in the water. Because what happens is belief systems create immediately no-go areas. Unquestioning belief systems I'm talking about. Ones that refuse to be moved. So if you have a religious belief system, whatever it is, whatever the religion, then there's no-go areas that you will not research and you will not perceive as possibilities, because you know that if you go there, your belief system is likely to come under threat. And if you have a political belief system, you are of the right or you are of the left, then you have the same phenomenon of no-go areas where you won't go here or go there because your political belief system will be under threat. And so this is why you've got a situation where vast tracts of this MAGA mentality will not criticize their two gods, no matter what they do. They'll find a bloody excuse for why they're doing it. I love this 4G, 5G chess. Oh no, he's just doing it because he's having them on. Oh really? I hear, oh, he's only having them on over Israel. Oh really? So the fact that he changed so many things immediately he came to office in relation to Israel, that he took away all limits on the weaponry that can be transferred to Israel. He removed sanctions on settlers who are stealing the land and property of Palestinians in the West Bank. And of course, Miriam Adelson, a super Zionist, has handed over $100 million to his campaign on the understanding that Trump will, during this presidency, support the annexation of the West Bank and its takeover by Israel, its official takeover by Israel. And in all these different ways, he has moved towards this agenda of that's been sought by Israel since way back, including moving the Palestinians out of Gaza and ultimately moving them out of Israel altogether, in terms of West Bank Palestinians as well. And I still see people saying, no, he's just playing chess with. No, he's not. He's owned by them. Miriam Adelson's husband, Sheldon Adelson, a casino magnate, gave him $200 million in his election campaigns. Trump, he's died now, Sheldon Adelson. And in reply to that, he moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and he recognized the Golan Heights, Syrian land, as Israeli land. Indeed, there's a settlement now called Trump Heights in the Golan Heights. And so these people are buying the leaders. And when you look also, it's another aspect of this that shouldn't be forgotten. When you look at all these different government institutions that are investigating Elon Musk and his companies for various reasons, they just happen to be the ones he's been targeting. Now, conflict of interest or what? But no, Elon's our savior. Trump's our savior. It's. I tell you what it is, mate. It's mass psychosis that I'm watching. It's the same psychosis that took people over in terms of COVID. And the people that thought they were streetwise about COVID are now fallen for this psychosis.
Yeah.
It's to watch.
Yeah, it's such an interesting phase in time, because, you mentioned that, about the WEF, and that it is a phase like where they're telling us what we want to hear, but it's it makes it difficult because it's the first time it feels like the first time that's ever really happened, where a politician is saying what they want to hear and then they start doing real things. I mean, we've been in Canada here, and I don't know about the UK too. I mean, I wanted to ask you if you think that MAGA is moving to the UK. MAGA. I don't know if I don't think I've heard that acronym yet, but maybe we can make it up here. But it doesn't feel like the WEF and what Canada's doing is ready to give up the battle for climate change and all the carbon taxes. Like their version of the New World Order doesn't feel like it's ready to give up. Like I feel like it's got to lead to some conflict here, to some war. I mean, it feels like there's two factions. Now, whether they're both going to lead to the New World Order or some sort of deep state, it feels real to me that the old world order with the old money and the climate change and the carbon taxes isn't ready to give this up. I mean, it's just.
Well, this is the point. Okay, how long is Trump in power? 4 years.
Well, another 8 maybe by the time it's done.
Well, you're in real trouble if that's the case.
Yeah.
Say it's 4 years. That's what official is his last period in office officially. And what happens after that? Yeah. Someone else can come in then.
Yeah.
Just reintroduce all this climate change nonsense.
Right.
No
problem. And then they've got the infrastructure to actually implement it.
Exactly.
And everybody in the boat. Everybody's on the boat now.
Yeah. By then, AI will be running the show, and the 15-minute cities and all this stuff will be ready to go, because the AI structure will be in place. And this is the thing, people judge everything on what they see in the moment. No. You've got to see where it's leading or where it could lead. And so you have this, and I did say this was coming weeks before he came to office, that you were going to see a blitzkrieg of reasons to say, we're winning, they're doing it. You're going to see that. Why are you going to see that? Because they need to get you looking over there so that they can carry on their real agenda over here. And it's like, I'm 73 coming up, and I've been doing this a long time. And the one thing that's been with me the whole period is I don't give a damn what people think of me. I don't give a damn what people say about me. I couldn't care less. I care whether what I'm saying is true or not, and whether I can support it. And so I've been calling out the hijack of the alternative media, and I've been calling out Trump since 2016 when he came on the scene politically. And I've been calling out Musk year after year. And I'm continuing to do it because I see nothing except confirmation of what I'm saying. Look, it took 2 days for Trump to call a White House press conference and wheel out Larry Ellison and Sam Altman for a $500 billion possibility, but certainly $100 million to start with, AI system of data centers, etc. Now, you need the data centers to process the AI data.
So did it surprise you at the unraveling of USAID, because Canada and the rest of the Western nations are under fire because of their slush funds? I mean, it really feels like it's an attack against how do we reconcile how big of an unraveling that is? I mean, some of us have been talking about USAID for many, many years, decades, and we know it's been sort of a slush fund, but isn't this opening a can of worms? Like, how do you control that?
No, it's not. It's exactly what they want. I mean, like you, I've been highlighting USAID, as I call it, since way back in the 1990s as a CIA front for manipulating in other countries, etc. There's nothing bloody new in that. But listen, if you are going to accept the complete transformation of your society into a completely different system,
it has to go.
What do you want the population to have? What must the population have?
It has to go. Yeah.
Complete contempt for the old system, the status quo, because that's got to go. Because if it doesn't go, then it's a block on what you want.
This is the Great Reset in a way.
Well, that's exactly right. It's the Great Reset. What people are looking at and cheering is what they've opposed all these years unfolding in front of their eyes. But because it's covered by telling people what they want to hear, they're cheering it.
So so you mentioned the non-human force at the top of all this. Like I think we really need to touch on that, and then Darren maybe can pipe in for a bit here. I don't want to take all your time, but is there any cultures or mythologies that are as close to what you think? Is this an Ahriman type thing, or Yaldabaoth of the Gnostics? Like,
it's the same thing. You see, what I found compelling and what I'm always looking for is patterns of agreement among belief systems that would otherwise disagree on almost everything.
Right. Okay.
So
even going back, but even ancient.
Yeah, ancient and modern. And so when you look at the ancient cultures, and I did long ago now, you see that they are telling the same story. They're just using different names for the negative force and its minions.
The destructive force, yeah.
Yeah, that they're talking about. So if you look at Christianity, they talk about Satan, the devil, and minions that serve that, what I say is a consciousness, a very distorted, inverted consciousness, called demons. If you look at Islam, they talk about shaitan, not Satan, and Iblis, and they talk about the jinn as the minions. Then you look at the Gnostic belief system, you mentioned Yaldabaoth, and the archons minions, archons being a Greek word meaning rulers appropriately. And wherever you look around the world, in these different cultures, they're telling the same story. In Central America, some shamans talk about, the predators. There's different names, but they're telling the same story. And that is a force operating outside of human sight, consistently, that is manipulating human society. It's doing it by manipulating human perception. And it's doing it directly, if we fall for it, by the manipulation of our consciousness fields. But it's also doing it via this global cult as well, and playing people off against each other. And I've been saying all along that the stadium on which this entire conspiracy is played out is human perception. That's everything. Everything they do is about controlling, manipulating that, because we behave as we do, because we perceive as we do. And we perceive as we do because of the information we receive from which we form those perceptions. This is what censorship's all about. And, that information can be personal experiences, it can be a television news item, it can be a Facebook post, whatever. But we're forming our perceptions from the information we receive.
Well, it could be paranormal phenomena too. I mean, it could be all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you get really deep into this, the control goes far, far deeper than almost anyone really understands. Because I've been doing this a long time, and therefore I've researched a hell of a lot. And if you do that with an open mind, without any no-go areas, if the information's there and the evidence is there, you'll go with it. Then you go very, very deep in the rabbit hole, and it's a long way further out than is it Trump or Harris? I'll tell you that.
So what is it? Are we talking about like, because the age-old battle, the one thing that all these sort of different belief systems and everything have had over time is good versus evil. There's always this good versus evil. There's different, definitions of demons and stuff like that now, but it's hard to not come at that whole religion and Bible thing as just being a giant control mechanism for its time. But lately we seem to be confronted with real evil, and in the face of all this, there seems to be a giant like a resurgence in Christianity and in faith.
Yeah.
And is that like by design, or so is
Oh,
that
that's by design. Oh, that's by design. You see, again, you can look at a situation and you can see it for what it is without having to follow a bloody religion. Religions are belief systems with the wagons circled around them. So if you are a Christian, you have to believe certain things. And if you don't believe them, then you're not a Christian. Same with Muslims, same with Hindu, all of it. So we have a Bible that is said to be the word of God. Now, that is a real big problem when you have a Bible that is extraordinarily contradictory. There's some great lines in the Bible, and there's some absolute contradictory dross. And we have a God in the Old Testament who is a bloodthirsty, bloody tyrant. And somehow, because it's the word of God and God can't be wrong, you can't be discerning and take the good stuff and leave the rest. You have to somehow explain that all of it is not contradictory, which is why they disappear up their own backside trying to do it. And it's the same with the Islamic religion. These are belief systems which are basically here and no further. You can't question anything beyond it. And one of the things that you can't say in most of these major religions is we are an aspect of the whole. So you're saying you're God then? I'm saying I'm an aspect of a consciousness that is the infinite awareness of which we're all an expression. Yes, I am saying that. And this is the point. From around the turn of the millennium, I've been absolutely convinced, and there weren't many around at that time who were saying it. Found one guy called Nick Bostrom, a professor at Oxford University. Yeah. And I was convinced that we lived in some kind of virtual reality simulation that had been created to entrap perception in a fake reality, which we believe to be real. It's one of the things that I've been challenging this alternative media on. While they're saying the deep state is the Democrats and Trump is the savior, the very reality that they're experiencing is the fakery on which the entire manipulation is based. And so what is this about? Imagine this. You are an expression of infinite awareness. You are connected to what some people call God. And you are therefore able to be influenced, inspired, gain understanding and insight from that source of awareness, that source of wisdom, source of love, if you like. But that which has created this simulated reality, sure as hell doesn't want that. It wants you to be disconnected from that true I, if you like, so that your focus of attention, your perception of yourself, your identity and reality is what they feed to you. And this is where we are. We are in a situation where they want you to focus ideally on the five sense reality that you're experiencing. Can I see it, touch it, taste it, hear it, etc.? then it must be true then. And if I can't, then it can't be true. This is the foundation of orthodox science, by the way.
That's the AI, right? Which is a fractal of this simulation that you're talking about, getting rid of our humanity.
Yeah.
It sort of fits.
Well, this is the point. You raise a very relevant point there, because it's been clear to me for a long while now that this whole virtual reality simulation is run by a level of AI that makes the AI, even that we see in the human world, look like the bloody Stone Age. It's a phenomenal level. And my last book is called The Reveal, in which I go into how it all works and how this AI system runs this quote matrix. And the Matrix movies were a godsend to me, because they gave a visual representation of how I've been seeing things for a long time. That this is literally a fake reality that we experience as real. And so the idea is to hold your attention and your self-identity within this matrix system, within this virtual reality system. And there's a reason for that. Mainstream science has now long understood that every time we think and every time we have an emotional response, we are generating frequencies. And those frequencies are dictated by the nature of the thought and the nature of the emotion. So low vibrational emotion is fear. That's the biggie. It's anxiety, it's depression, it's resentment, it's hatred, and all these low vibrational emotions. And joy and love and happiness are high, fast frequencies. And what they want to do is keep us in a low vibrational state, because our energetic fields are dictated by our perceptions of reality. You know, when people are in a state of depression, they say, "Oh, I feel so heavy today," or "Life's such so heavy." That's because their state of being is generating low, slow frequencies that are making their energetic field vibrate very slowly, very densely. That's why they feel heavy. And then you get people who are in a state of happiness and joy, and they say, "Oh, I feel so light today," because they're generating through their perceptions high frequencies that are vibrating their energetic field in a much more vibrant way. And what they need to do, and there are other reasons for this, which we'll get into another time, is keep us in that low vibrational state, because they keep us, therefore, within the perceptual range of the matrix. We are in the matrix and of the matrix. Once you start to go through a true awakening, not awakening to Trump, a true awakening to the nature of the true I, the true identity, which is a state of infinite awareness, then suddenly you start to see things you couldn't see before.
So would this be like the ancient Maya's?
Because you're accessing levels of awareness, knowledge, insight, perception that are outside, because you're expanding your self-identity. Thus, that automatically expands your field into these other realms beyond the simulation, beyond the matrix, where you can access things and access insights which give you a totally different view of the world. Suddenly, you're not seeing random events anymore. Suddenly, you're seeing how it all connects, because you're no longer being subjected only to the systematic suppression of your state of awareness. And if you can be kept in a frequency state that is within the frequency range of the matrix, then the matrix controls your mind. It controls everything.
Is that the ancient Eye of Sauron? Like, how does that fit into this? Because there's like that. Is that sort of the device that would be holding us in this matrix right now? Or is there any sort of like reference to it in lore or bibliography? Because there's like, we got this, the different stuff, like what's the one Randall's always talking about, the Ark of the Covenant, these sort of things. Like, is there any hints in history on how we can get out of this, or anyone that's tried to? Are there any good guys?
Yes, there are, but we come back to frequency. If the quote good guys came into our frequency and lowered their frequency to the human frequency, the general human frequency, then they wouldn't be the good guys anymore. They'd be caught in the matrix, wouldn't they? So to connect with this more expanded level of consciousness that allows you to see it, which you couldn't see before, true awakening, not fake awakening, you have got to yourself expand your awareness and your frequency so that you can make that connection and you can access that awareness, that knowledge. And that means a totally new reevaluation of your self-identity. You see, if you meet someone and you greet them, hello, and you ask them, well, who are you? What they'll do is they'll give you your name, their name, they'll give you their job, probably, their place of birth, where they live, and all these, their religion, and all these things, and they're all related to the world of the five senses, which is the matrix. So how many people say, no, who are you? And you say, oh, I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be, having a brief human experience. Oh, thought I recognized you. Nice to meet you. No, it doesn't happen at all, because the self-identity is self-identity with the body and with the human experience. And that's all this is. It's a human experience that our consciousness is having. It is not who we are. We're not Bill down the call center, or Fred driving the bus, or Ethel on the checkout. They're just experiences. All of those people are ultimately consciousness that's been manipulated to disconnect from the influence of its true self. So it's like you're on a desert island, and you've been cut off from all other access to all other levels of civilization. You only know the island, and you're born onto the island, right? Say someone's born onto that island. What are they going to think? The island's going to be the totality of their perception of who they are and where they are. And that's basically the situation that humanity's in. And it's, we talk about this spiritual war between good and evil. Well, what we call evil is that which has created this virtual reality matrix prison and wants to keep us in it. And what we call good is that beyond the prison, in a frequency beyond the prison, that's screaming at us, wake up, you're being shafted. And but of course, as we talked about already, it's about control of attention, right? Now, I'm in this room and I can see a window, I can see walls, I can see lights, I can see a computer, I can see a range of things, right? Okay, now I focus on my finger. Everything I've just described has disappeared. So your focus of attention, if it can be created and manipulated into a myopia, like Trump or Harris, you lose touch with the greater awareness, because you're so focused on that. And what they want to do is, as best as possible, keep us focused on the five sense world alone. Ideally, you know, just believe that you are a cosmic accident who come into awareness for a short time and then disappear into nothing. Or if you can't be got to believe that, which is basically mainstream orthodox science, by the way, then accept a religion. And what are religions? Religions say that you must worship God, and you must get on your knees and you must pray to God. These are all of them. And that you must be in awe of God. And so what are they actually saying? You down here, God up there, therefore you must worship. And that is a wonderful state of subordination. I love it when I see so many people in the alternative media, big names, some of them, who have converted to Christianity or converted from Christianity to Roman Catholicism version of Christianity, who talk about freedom and standing up for yourself, and at the same time get on their knees on stages to their God. No loving force wants you to worship it. No loving force wants you on your knees, bowing to it. But that which has created this simulation matrix does. And I've said in the books over the years, if I look at, say, the God of the Old Testament, the traits of that God are all those of this force that created the matrix. And, you know, it seems to me, and again, you know, the trickery, much of the trickery is founded on getting you to see two sides, which are actually the same side. That's what's happening with Musk and Trump as against to Schwab and Gates. And I say it's happening with what people call the negative force, Satan, whatever, and what they call God, the religious God. It's two masks on the same face. One plays the role of the opposer, the negative force, and the other one plays the role, very badly most of the time, as the positive force. So you get people to oppose this force called Satan or Shaitan or whatever, but worship this, when actually they're just different expressions of the same force, the same consciousness. And when you go beyond the matrix, that's when you hit the levels of wisdom, the levels of love, the levels of awareness that people think they are worshiping but are not.
So before we wrap up, what's the most practical thing that people listening to this can do to sort of break free, or at least start moving in the right direction? Something that's just sort of simple. Everyone can do it. You don't have to be you just day one. I'm going to start today. What's the sort of the easiest thing people can do to break out of this spell and get us on the right track?
Okay, and your use of words there is spot on. It's a spell. It's a trance. That's what it is. And that's why I talk about mass psychosis with this Trump Musk thing. It's a trance. That's why there's no rational questioning, no matter what they do. And there's a greater trance, which is the trance that we're in. My book before the reveal was called The Dream. We're in a dream. So simple things, yeah. And I've written about this over the years. People say to me, "You never come up with solutions." I say, posted on Twitter sometimes. I've been coming up with solutions for 35 bloody years, mate. You just haven't bothered to read them. First of all, blank sheet of paper. Put aside all previous belief, all religious belief, all political belief. And from that point, anything that gets onto that piece of paper in terms of how you are seeing things has to be justified by evidence and by your own unique intuitive points of reference. No one anymore tells you what to believe. Not religions, not politics, not me, nobody. You do it. You do it. Now, the thing is that this is so important in terms of getting out of this situation. I've talked about your emotions, your thoughts generating frequencies, and together they impact upon your energetic field, because we have an electromagnetic field that is beyond the body. Some levels of it can be photographed. And therefore, our perceptual state, including our self-identity, is generating a frequency. And if you notice what society, i.e. this force, wants people to do is self-identify with limitation. So you either self-identify with little me, I've got no power, I'm just a cosmic accident, and when I die, I disappear. Or you are a subordinate subject of some God who loves you, but allows this shithole to continue. And therefore, you must worship because you're subordinate. You must get on your knees. In other words, self-identify with little me, limitation, and I have no power. Now, when you take that on board, whether it's being subordinate to a god or orthodox science, life's a bitch and then you die, that is represented, that perceptual state, in the frequencies you're giving off, which dictate your energetic field. So when you self-identify with little me, and most people do in different forms, then you are operating in a very low vibrational state. And you're accessing, therefore, a subsequent tiny range of potential knowledge, insight, which exists in the infinite field. If you reevaluate your self-identity and go from I'm David Icke, born in Leicester, England in 1952, to I am a state of awareness, all awareness, exploring forever, who is having a brief experience in a vehicle called human. I am not the experience. I am the consciousness having the experience, and I am ultimately able to tap into expanded levels of consciousness, because that's my true nature. That self-identity transforms what you're giving off, expands it massively, increases the frequency of it massively, and suddenly you start to expand your field out beyond this matrix prison, and you start tapping in to insight, knowledge. You just know things you didn't realize you knew, because you've tapped into that level that does know, as opposed to the level that doesn't want you to know. And suddenly everything changes. Now, I've been through this, but went through this with a massive head blowing off in 1991. But met people all over the world who've been through it. It's real. And it's when you stop self-identifying with your name and your job and your circumstances, and realize that's an experience and it's not you. And once that self-identity starts to expand, suddenly you're going to find you're seeing things you couldn't see before. You are aware of things you weren't aware of before. You can see how things connect. It's not random anymore, because you're tapping into that level of awareness that doesn't want to stop you knowing. It wants you to know. And so this is why I say, if that level of awareness came into a human body and start identifying with human, it would be the same as humanity is. It wouldn't be the cavalry. What we have to do is play our part in expanding our awareness through reevaluating our self-identity and connect with it. And then everything changes. And that's what this force that's created this simulated prison cell wants to stop. And you know, if it can create, there's other reasons why it does this, by the way, but if it can create wars and conflicts and depression and divide and rule and belief systems that are played off against each other, instead of respecting everyone's right to have their own opinion, so long as they don't impose it on anyone else, then if you can do that, then you are holding attention in what I call the drama. You know, what we're experiencing in this reality is a bloody drama, constant drama. Oh, have you heard the latest? Oh my God, you'll never guess what's happened now. Drama, drama, drama. And what is that doing? It's focusing attention within the very fake reality that they want us to believe in.
It seemed like in the middle of the 1800s, there was like a brief movement. I don't know if Graham will agree with this or not, because he's read all those theosophy books and everything else. But it seemed like in the mid 1800s, a lot of these breakout authors at the end of the 19th century were kind of almost seeming like they were ready to break free of this. And then, you know, we spill into World War I and everything else, and we're right back under the boot.
Yeah, well, some of them did. I mean, you know, when you're talking about the esoteric, I mean, people talk about the occult. Occult just means hidden. It means hidden knowledge. And this knowledge, esoteric knowledge, can be used for good or it could be used for ill. I mean, this global cult, with its Satanism and what have you, is using esoteric knowledge, which is basically how the reality works, for its own ends and very, very malevolent ends. But you can also use it for very positive ends. Depends on the intent behind what you're doing. And there were a mixture of manipulative books in that period you talk about, and some very, very good ones. And whenever you have anything like truth coming to light, then the cult goes round and smacks it with a hammer. And this is manifested through the centuries as the Roman Catholic Church, for instance, burning at the stake so-called blasphemers, and all these religions, these major religions, have blasphemer kind of themes running through them, and anyone that steps outside of the belief system gets the hammer. And the whole you know, period of the Roman Catholic Church going around not just Europe but the United States and destroying anyone that had a different belief system. This is all part of the control to keep you in the matrix and not see how you can get out of it. I mean, you know, the Gnostics who manifested as the Cathars, for instance, in southern France, they ended up in 1244 being burned to death at the castle of Montségur in southern France, because they were talking about the fact that this reality has not been created by God, it's been created by a fake God to control us. And that was the worst nightmare of the establishment. And you look what happened to the Cathars and what happened to the Gnostics in general. You know, the Gnostic mentality ran the Great Library of Alexandria in Egypt, which became a depository of fantastic scrolls and manuscripts from the ancient world, right across the ancient world. And as a result of their open minds, as a result of their research based on not having no-go areas, they were coming up with stuff about reality that has only been confirmed in sometimes even modern times. And this was, in the early part of the 3rd, 4th century. And so they were destroyed by the Roman Catholic Church. The Great Library of Alexandria was destroyed in stages because it had all this knowledge they didn't want circulating. And there was a lady who worked there called Hypatia, who was torn apart by a mob, a Roman church mob, on the instigation of a guy called Cyril, who was the kind of church leader of that area. And Cyril, as late as the 1980s, was made a saint by the Roman Catholic Church in Rome. And some of the greatest mass killers in history have been made saints, because the Roman Church is not there to enlighten people, it's there to keep them in the box. Same with so many of these other religions, which is why we need to come to our own conclusions and stop being told what to think. I tell you what's really indicative of what I'm talking about. If you're born in the Hindu part of the world, or in a Hindu family in another part of the world, the chances of you being a Hindu are phenomenal. If you're born in the Middle East, your chances of being a Muslim are phenomenal. If you're born in the southern states of the United States, the chances of you being a Christian are phenomenal. Now, that is an indication, and let's put this into context, of the 8 billion people that are supposed to be on the planet, 5.4 billion associate themselves with either Christianity, Islam, or Hinduism. And what this tells you is they're not coming to their own conclusions. They're not looking at all the possibilities and coming to their own unique conclusion. They're coming to the conclusion that they're told to have since they were born. And if you get yourself a vehement kind of evangelical character in the southern states of America, and they had been born in the Middle East, they would be a evangelical type promoter of Islam.
Or Islam.
Same in Hinduism. They would be a vehement promoter of that, because they simply would have been programmed with a different belief system. And I remember one time I've been to Jerusalem. It was in 1993. I just wanted to see it. They wouldn't let me in now. And I stood next to the mosque on what Jews and Christians call Temple Mount, and I watched these little Muslim boys playing football. They're quite young, very young. And I looked at it, and I don't know whether you know, but in the old city of Jerusalem, which is a very small place behind the walls, it's broken up into quarters. there's a Christian quarter, a Jewish quarter, a Muslim quarter, and an Armenian quarter. And they're down the street from each other. And I was watching these Muslim kids playing football, and lots of them seem to be called Mohammed, I remember. And it just occurred to me as I was standing there that had those kids been born literally down the street in the Jewish quarter or the Christian quarter, they'd now have a very different view of life, themselves, identity, the world, God, all of it. And the only difference is what they've been subjected to since they were born. And you take that process, that technique of perceptual downloading, and you then apply that to the human race in general. And that's how a few, and it is by goodness a few, can control 8 billion people. They do it by controlling what they think, what they perceive, and thus how they behave.
Well, and on the other side of that, you have in Europe, you just have the atheism materialism that's happened since the Enlightenment. So, I mean, you have a lot of people growing up to be atheists or materialists too, which is just as bad in my opinion.
I agree with you. That's another religion.
Yeah,
so it's another belief system that's not allowed to be moved into other possibilities. It doesn't matter if it's atheism, orthodox science, which is another religion, by the way, or Christianity or Islam or any of them. Right-wing politics, Republican, Democrat, Labour, Conservative in this country. It doesn't matter. The belief system is what matters, because I've said so many times in the books, this force and this global cult doesn't care what you believe. It cares that you believe something rigidly, because then they got you.
I love it.
Absolutely. David Icke, this has been great. I mean, I got to say, I have been to Leicester. I was in Leicester last summer. I got to give a shout out to one of our big supporters and longtime listeners here, because he lives in Melton Mowbray, which I think
Mowbray.
Yeah, just
that's where they make the pork pies. Yeah,
I've been there to have the pot pie, and it was as advertised
in the shop with the black and white shop.
Yeah. My buddy Tony gets me pie. So the first time we met him, he brought us some pie, and then I got to go to Leicester and stay there and do all that. And I also, my wife will kick my ass if I don't say hi for her, because she's a huge fan. She's got all your books. She's read all your books, and she's super excited about you coming on the show. So, David Icke, this has been great. Thanks for staying along with us. Where can our listeners find all your stuff if they want to get those books? Do you have a website?
Yeah, they can find me at davidicke.com. That's where they can get the books. And if anyone in North America orders a book, it's posted to them within North America, so they'll get it very quickly. I just have to come from Britain. And there's also Iconic, which is our media platform, 500 hours of news shows. There's news shows every day of full-length documentaries and what have you. And I'm very proud of what my sons have done building that.
Yeah, we've had Gareth on the show a couple of times. Yeah, so we talk on Twitter quite a bit.
Very bright fella. So is my other son, Jamie. Very, very bright. And Gareth, when he took his exams at school, because like me, he couldn't see the point of being told what to think and not being able to ask questions on it. He was getting E's in his exams. He didn't mess about. He didn't just get D's or C's. He got E's. And so he came out of school with E's, and he is immensely intelligent. So education is programming. Educating yourself on your terms is what real education is.
I love it. Yeah, we love Gareth. Yeah, it's awesome. All right.
David, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Come back anytime.
All the best to your wife. Bye.
Bye. And that was our chat with the enigmatic David Icke. Finally, I mean, it took over a decade, but I feel like we had to make that show happen. It was a good one. And what do you think?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So big thanks to Dave for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you're a lord like Tony and you support the show. We couldn't do it without you. We're not allowed to do commercials or be monetized or anything like that. So you got to head over to grimerica.ca/support today and sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation over there. Of course, you can also check out contact@thecabin.com for our tours and events, adultbrain.ca for tons of audiobooks and publishing opportunities and all sorts of stuff like that if you're an author. GrimericaCBD.com for them CBTs and THC gummies. And I think that's it. And GrimericaOutlaw.ca for our other more controversial stuff. So other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.